A while back, my youngest son gave me a map of the United States and a red map pencil, told me to color in all the states where I've ridden my motorcycle. So I think I was up to, I don't know, 9 states: Texas, New Mexico, Colorado, Oklahoma, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and Florida. And then recently we moved to North Carolina, so I picked up a 10th state with North Carolina. Now I did trailer the bike across Georgia and South Carolina, so those states, of course, didn't count. I didn't actually ride my motorcycle. So we arrived in North Carolina a little over 2 weeks ago. Have been very busy, unpacking, settling in, and I haven't had much time to ride. I have ridden to Raleigh once for an Indian Motorcycle Riders Group meeting, and that's about the only distance I've been. So right now my 15-year-old son and I are going to try to pick up another state. We don't live too terribly far, at least I don't think it's too terribly far from the Virginia border. So we're going to scoot up to Virginia, cross the state line, and come back, and I'll be able to color in another state on my map of the United States. I can tell you that the terrain is drastically different from the part of Texas we moved from. We lived in southeast Texas, down on the Texas Gulf Coast, very flat, lots of marsh, alligators, things of that nature. Very flat. Most of the roads were very straight. Here it is hilly, twisty roads. We live in the central part of the state of North Carolina. As you might gather from the fact that I said we're not far from the Virginia state line, it's the northern part, the north central part of North Carolina. We have gone east to the beach already and swam in the Atlantic Ocean. I'm eager to go west and see some real mountains. I'm eager to ride the Blue Ridge Parkway, the Tail of the Dragon. People from Texas ride up to this part of the country to ride the Tail of the Dragon. So both of those are on my bucket list. I hope to be able to do them, both those rides, in the relatively near future. But as I said, right now we are heading to Virginia. We are on the edge of Roxborough, or entering the outskirts of Roxborough, North Carolina as I speak. And again, I don't think it's too far from the state line, and I'll certainly tell you when we've crossed the state line. Very pretty up here, very green and lush. Now the part of Texas that I'm from, what I call the piney woods of East Texas, that part of Texas, it's also hilly with lots of forests. This kind of reminds me of the part of Texas that I'm originally from, but it's very pretty up here. There's a gorgeous yellow Corvette. If I ever age out of riding motorcycles, I would go with a Corvette. I know you can buy a fairly late model Corvette, pretty good price. Used to, they were all low miles, but now people drive their Corvettes. They don't just, keep them in the garage. So we're already having a good time here in North Carolina. My wife will be attending Duke Divinity School there in Durham. I'm now pastoring the Helena Methodist Church in Timberlake, North Carolina. The folks in the church are just wonderful. They're very loving, very gracious, very welcoming, very hard-working church. They love to sing, beautiful congregational singing and choir, and I know we're going to have a great time, or already are having a great time here in North Carolina. So I'm so used to riding where everything's flat, just stopping at red lights with hills and coming out of parking lots with slopes and hills is quite a bit different than I've been used to for the last several years. So riding up here, I think, is definitely going to be a lot more fun, a a little more technically challenging, but to me, the more curves, the better. So stay tuned, and I'll let you know when we cross the state line. Okay, we're coming out of Roxborough going to the north. I decided to turn my GoPro camera back on. Wouldn't come on. I had to pull over. Mine, I think, is the Hero Black 8 maybe, and I've got the media mod. The camera's inside the media mod, so I can plug in my external Purple Panda microphone. And so sometimes I just cannot get it to turn on. I stop, take the camera out of the media mod. Sometimes I take the battery out, put it back in. This time I did not remove the battery. I just kind of took it out of the media mod, put it back in the media mod, comes right on. It's aggravating. Sometimes I think these GoPro cameras will just kick off because of the heat, and it is a little warmer today. It's in the 90s. It's definitely been cooler for the most part here in North Carolina than back home. We've had several days that were down in the 80s, and I know parts of Texas get well over 100. The part of Texas we moved from, the humidity. Now, they talk about the humidity up here, and there is humidity up here too, coming off of the Atlantic. I think that's tobacco fields there, if you can see it in the camera. A lot of farming up here, tobacco, corn, and other things. But anyway, the humidity. They talk about the humidity here, and it is more humid here than obviously than the desert Southwest. But I think the humidity back in southeast Texas is worse than it is here. So the humidity also is a factor on what the weather feels like. I usually don't pay much attention to the heat index. To me, it's the temperature is temperature, but I know out in the desert Southwest it doesn't always feel as hot because it's so dry. But here, it can be much cooler temperature-wise and actually feel hotter. So maybe there is something up to this heat index. Well, we've been 15 miles from the house, 20 minutes of actual ride time. I know we've got to be getting close to the state line because the next town, the sign back there said, 21 miles. And it's, forgot the name of it, something Boston. I want to say New Boston, but that's not it. It's in Virginia. So I know we've got to be pretty close to the state line. Sometimes these smaller highways, I can blow by the state line sign without noticing. I guess I go into La La Land or something. But as I said, we've got to be getting awfully close to the Virginia state line. I will be curious how far it is from the house to the neighboring state. Now, where we lived in southeast Texas, we were 40-something miles from the Louisiana state line. And we may be closer to the Virginia state line than let's see, I don't know what that sign says. Oh, some vineyard, 2.5 miles. I don't think I want to go to a vineyard today. A lot of clay in that pond. Yeah, we got to be getting close. Well, every mile we're a mile closer. Sometimes I say every day we're a day closer to our death, which is true. So we all need to be ready. Highway 501 north, coming out of Roxborough. I recently put these Tab performance slip-on mufflers on my motorcycle, and I do like them. Now, it is loud. I have to listen to my radio just a little louder. South Boston, 13 miles. I'm almost positive South Boston is in the state of Virginia. So after living our whole life up to this point, of course our life's not over yet, after living our whole life in Texas, this has been quite an adventure, moving to North Carolina. Quite an adventure. My wife and I, we love to hike in the mountains. We've done a little mountain hiking since we've been here. Not much yet. As I said, we've been getting settled in, unpacking and all those things. My wife getting ready to start school. Yesterday we got marble-sized hail. We've had little pop-up thunderstorms several times a week this week. Oh, I better slow down a little bit. I can't get used to these slower speed limits. I'm getting way better gas mileage in my truck and my motorcycle. I don't know if it's the lower speed limit or just being so much higher above sea level. I mean, we're not drastically above sea level here, but we're way higher above sea level than we were on the Texas Gulf Coast. Hopefully there'll be a nice sign at the state line. There we go, Virginia. Apparently that's the little sign right there. We are in Virginia. A whopping 20 miles from the state line. Took us 25 miles to get there. There's another sign that says, "Welcome to Virginia." Virginia is for lovers. What an interesting state slogan. See, speed limit 60. A road like this in Texas, the speed limit would be 75. Out in West Texas, the speed limit goes up to about 85. Like I say, the slower speed limits are just seem like everything's at a little slower pace up here though, which is not bad. So we made it to Virginia, 20 miles, 25 minutes. So when I get home, I'm going to pull out that little map, color in Virginia, and I'll try to remember to drop in a picture of the map. I do plan on, in the relatively near future, doing a Georgia lunch ride. To ride from the northern part of North Carolina across South Carolina, across the Georgia state line, eat lunch, turn around, come back. I was trying to keep track of how far that would be when we came up here. I want to say 150 miles, maybe more, I can't remember, to get across, you know, part of North Carolina, all the way across South Carolina into Georgia. But I'm going to do that really soon. I like to do cross-state line rides. Up in, went down in Texas one day. We rode from southeast Texas across Louisiana into Mississippi, ate lunch, turned around and went back home. One day we rode from southeast Texas up to Mena, Arkansas, ate lunch, went back home. That was an 800-mile round trip. So I don't mind riding 400 miles to eat lunch, especially if the food's good, but really it's all about the ride. So remember, ride as much as you can, because one day we're all going to be too old to ride. Let's see if I can turn this thing around and head back to the house. I've got another son I've got to pick up from football practice. Now when you look at this curve here, you can see why the speed limits are a little slower. Somebody around that curve doing 80 miles an hour will be a lot different than them rounding the curve doing 60. I love these pipes. There is the sign welcoming us back into North Carolina. Making our way back home.
Be sure to like